explains how to strip down the motor and gearbox, how to remove the motor from the gearbox. When you take it apart and you remove the front screws, it's going to find it's full of grease, and it may look straightforward and simple, and it really isn't that complicated. But what is important is the spacing of the coupling on this shaft. If it's in the wrong place and it's too far in, it means you're going to create a large gap on the other half of the coupling or between the two couplings, which could then cause it to tear off. And if it's too far to the right or off on the leading edge of the shaft, that it closes too much and the coupling will get very, very hot. So that's an important aspect when we put it back together again. And also how we remove from it being aluminium. It's a quite soft material that's anodized. Even so, you don't want to damage the edges. So I'm going to show all of that to you shortly. We start by removing these 4 screws. I'll start with this one. Okay, so when you lift the front cover, because the coupling is in place and you don't remove that now, you pull it out like that with the gearbox complete. You can place that aside for now. Now you need to scoop out all the grease. It depends on the contamination. If there's no water damage or anything like that, it's just pure grease, you can save it and use it again. You need to scoop out as much of the grease in that cavity as possible. You'll also clean off around the gear with your finger and put it all into a little container. The idea is to put back as much grease as you took out. This is the grease that we use in case you lose some on a cloth and so on. Basically, it's straightforward Castrol LM general purpose grease, and the marking is NLGI2. So it's basically a lithium based grease. That's the look of it when it's totally new. It's creamish colored. So definitely not wheel bearing grease. The whole concept of how this grease or grease works is that when the shaft spins and it runs hot on the bush there, the grease melts, makes oil, lubricates, and when it cools down, it resets, reconstitutes as grease. All right, so that's what it looks like on the inside. I'm going to swap over now to a motor. There's no reason for me to remove this motor because it's a perfectly good working one. We're talking about your motor, which may be damaged. Let's put that there. So I will continue with this one. There is no grease in this motor or in this gearbox. Let's begin with this part. So we need to get this coupling off, but the first most important thing that you need to do is to measure the distance on your particular box, using a vernier if possible, from the front cover with that coupling pushed in, the gear in place, washer in place, everything in place, like that, then mark that. You need to put, when you refit the coupling, which is going to simply slide into that shaft with a flat spot for those grub screws to tighten against, you want to be able to move it backward and forward so it exactly, well, on this particular one it is 17 moles, let's say, but that's unimportant. It's what it is on your particular gearbox. So mark that down, 17 moles, write it on a piece of paper and keep that for later. All right, now we're to the inside. Now to actually remove the coupling, and the reason why you might do that, not necessary remove if you find that your shaft is not binding in any way on the bush in this front cover. If you find that it spins freely, you've got lateral movement, a hair of left-right movement, in-out movement, and it feels loose, so that in other words it hasn't overheated and caused that bush to seize. So if it looks like that, you don't have to remove this part off the cover. But for those where it has happened, that something has happened to the bush, I'm going to show you how we remove that. So yeah, I take a plain screwdriver. I've just used some rubber tube, which I had a spare piece of anyway. Rubber tube which I slid over there, because I want to place it in there in the coupling like that. After I've loosened it, first I'll loosen the grub screws. So you're going to use a 2mm Allen keel or something like that, or this, I think it's called Torx equivalent. this I find works really well, doesn't strip easily. You loosen both of those and you grab the gear at the back with this vice grip on the hub like that, not on the gear obviously. So you grab it on there and then you just twist this part here using the rubber insulation, and you can work the coupling off. That was easy because it hasn't been properly set in place for this demonstration, but that's how you do it. You basically grip the back there and then work that coupling off without damaging the edges of these teeth. Once you have it like that, you can take that apart. Now, to get the motor off, you are required to remove those 4 screws. We'll start with that one and go on to the end there and so on. Okay, so sorry, I said 2 mil, it's 2.5 mil, and very important that you get a good fitting one, because if these screws strip or the head strips, you're going to struggle to get this apart. So make sure that it's not a worn Allen key at all. Must be a good strong X key with a good end, 2.5 mil. And then once you've got all 4 of them out, straightforward. Basically, there we go. Now that will slide off there. And now we are required to remove the gear. Okay, so again, make a second measurement for your particular box, just to make your life easy, because when I fit this back, if I've taken this gear off the front cover, then it's not so bad, and it's fairly straightforward, because you can place it into the bush like that, push it down, hold the box on, and you can feel there's about a 1 millimeter, just a hair over 1 millimeter lip there. But if your cover's on, you can't do this. So it might be easier, might be worthwhile, just measuring the distance from the underside of the gear, just like that, and make a note of that distance, so that when you put it back on again on the flat spot, that you tighten the gear on the flat spot with exactly that distance from there to there. Okay, that's now we're going to remove the gear. Okay, once again, grab it on the hub, just keeping the crab screw in the center, and just gently work that off like that. And there we go. You can take the motor apart to have a look on the inside, but oftentimes, if you know the motor is burnt because you see it black or pieces are falling out, or it smells and it doesn't spin, then you can go straight away and change or fit the new motor. But just for interest's sake, I'm going to remove these 3 screws and so on. Fan off, screw, fan off. Okay, then to actually take the magnet housing off the motor itself, basically there's a circlip here. You dig underneath. I've taken the liberty of loosening it slightly or lifting it slightly, and you just work the circlip or C-clip off like that. Put it in a safe place. If it's become a little bit damaged, or if you're going to use it again, just make sure that it's flat before you put it back on. Okay, that goes there, and now you should be able to pull the motor apart. This will work. Whilst holding it just there, just tap it back. What actually happens is the magnets are doing a good job of keeping it together. Okay, that's what a good new one looks like. That's what a good new housing looks like. 24 magnets with the windings on the inside there. So that's how you strip the motor completely. But chances are when you're replacing, you replace the entire unit. So you'll get it like this. There will be a flat spot already ground there for you. And obviously your circlip will be in place.